And we are back with another ladies' room on this Wednesday, October 13th. Good morning again, everyone. And of course, we are live, so you can check out our Facebook page if you have not received the notifications. I've had folks complaining for the past couple of days since Facebook went down. Was it last Friday or 2 Fridays ago, whatever? That everything seems to have switched up and they don't get the notifications like they used to before. So, in case you have not, you can mosey on over to our Facebook page and you will have it there. Alrighty, well, of course, I've got a special guest with me this morning. And let me just give you guys a couple minutes to come on into the room quickly before we start the conversation. Good morning, Christelle. Nice of you to join us already. I don't think I've shared as yet, so let me do that now. And then we will take it from there. Yeah, so I haven't even received the notification as yet. So it's definitely something that's on Mark's end. All right, so got it now. Okay, so there we go. So everybody come on in. Tamasha, good morning. Bibi, good morning. Roseanne, good morning. Hope you guys are having a good Wednesday so far. Thank you so much for being here with us for another show. And like I said, I've got a very special guest this morning, and I'm so happy that he accommodated at the last minute. Randal Robinson is in the room for the very first time, so y'all be very nice. You know how we do it around here. It's always good vibes, respect, and manners, and we like to extend that to our guest as well. Alrighty, of course, you're welcome to chime in, give your 2 or 3 or 5 cents, how many you've got to the conversation. We'd love to hear from you and, to keep it going. Alrighty, so let me get the ball rolling. Good morning, Randall. How are you?
Good morning, Aruna, and good morning to all of your listeners, wherever they are. It's my pleasure to be here, I guess, this morning. And I feel, what's the word, special to be gracing your room this morning.
You are so welcome. Now, before we do anything else, let me just let you guys know Randall is speaking in his personal capacity. All right, we're not talking politics. We're talking to Randall Robinson, citizen of Grenada. Alrighty, so we don't do political lenses around here. So if you're coming in with that energy, you can leave now because that's not what we're doing. We're talking to Randall, the citizen, and that has been doing, amazing work for the past couple of weeks, months, and not so long ago we even spoke about it here in the ladies' room. Noticed how hard he's going for COVID-19 and trying to, disseminate the information regardless of the blows and attacks he gets daily. I so admire his broad back, but somebody has to do it. So there we have it. So how have you been? How have you been from since the onset of this pandemic? How has it been?
Well, it's been, look, I haven't worked since March of last year. I'm in the tourism business and we do river tubing and so on. And after the last trip on the 10th of March last year, there was nothing for us. So this pandemic, on a personal note, has taken its toll, but you can't give up, Aruna. Things will come back. I mean, how long it takes to come back, that's up to us, really. So the faster we do what we need to do to get us back to a place where we can get back to some semblance of normalcy. That's what we should do. It's unfortunate that we have, for the most part, I would say, wasted 18 months. Well, let us say from January. So from January to now, when the vaccines became available and so on, we've been sitting down here just playing the fool with them. I mean, imagine after all of this time, we're still only looking at 30% vaccination uptake in Grenada. I mean, it's just kind of crazy. Within 5 weeks, we have lost 180 people, to COVID. And that a lot of us suffer with comorbidities, whether it be diabetes, hypertension, asthma, heart disease. And so quite a number of our Grenadians have these underlying issues. And these are the people who are most susceptible to the ravages of COVID, obesity and
I'm happy
so.
that you mentioned that because just yesterday I was having that conversation with my audience, and I said to folks, you know what? There are some who are totally against vaccinations for whatever reason, and there are some who are preaching, eating healthy, boosting your immune system. But I also had to reiterate that boosting your immune system does not make your immune system work the way it should overnight. It takes a while, and it's not just drinking and all the ginger, all the turmeric, all the spices, all whatever. But if you continue to eat the same garbage basically, and you're not exercising, you're not doing everything, it defeats the purpose. So to just be touting, okay, boosting your immune system as something that will solve all of the problem, unfortunately it won't, because for so long our bodies have been accustomed to not doing the right things, not treating it well, not
Yeah,
going to the doctor, not getting checked up. Because what you realize is that a lot of folks who have COVID after hospitalization, realizing that there are other issues that they were unaware of. Because you walk around thinking, okay, well, you know what? I'm okay. I don't get sick. I don't have this, that you know of. And you're thinking that you're good. And only to be told while you're there that you have these conditions that you were unaware
yeah,
of. Because
yeah,
as a nation, and a lot of the times, what we tend to do is wait until you're not feeling well. And like we say, water more than flour. And you run to the doctor, and then you're told this. Most folks don't believe in getting checked out just for getting checked out sake, to make sure everything is okay. And that is something that I think that we need to get into the habit of having regular checkups. I mean, I know it can be expensive to do all the blood work and this work and that work, but even if you can't do it often, at least 6 months to a year, so you have an idea as to what's happening inside, what's happening with your body, and not just wait until, okay, my head hurting real bad and it's not going away. I took painkillers and it's not moving. Or I'm getting a pain in my chest or a pain in my stomach and it's not going anywhere. And then it is too late. So there's
yeah.
a lot of comorbidities and underlying issues that have shown its head as a result of COVID-19.
Yes, and that's the real truth, Aruna. What we're discovering, if you're paying attention to what is happening with COVID, you would realize that it exacerbates underlying conditions, magnifies them. Things you didn't know you had, you will find out if you became infected with COVID, and that's the danger of the thing. And so you're also seeing, while we're discovering that people with comorbidities, and we heard the minister say sometime in the past that it is taking a special advantage of diabetic patients, right? People with diabetes seem to be, seem to have a bullseye when it comes to COVID. But the other thing is that as you read more and more, you're recognizing that there are people who are otherwise healthy who come down with COVID and have been sick for months. In some cases more than a year when you're talking about long haul COVID. And we look on. I don't know why it is we want to discount the science, but the fact is, if we were to look at the statistics as we are seeing them, 2% of people who become infected with COVID have died. 2% worldwide, right? And if we were to extrapolate those numbers, for instance, we have 180 dead. So 180 dead, just using the 2%, will tell you that we probably had, 36,000 infections? No, is it 36? No, not 36. Let me see, 2%, 180. So that's 9,000 infections. 9,000 infections will give you a 2% mortality rate. So we're talking about, we probably had over 9,000 people infected with COVID, right? That we are in this situation now. So if we're looking at those figures, 9,000 people who were infected, 180 dead, and 36,000 vaccinated, right? So 36 and 9 is 45,000, and we have eligibility for people to get the vaccine is 93,000 according to the statisticians locally. we if you're talking natural immunity, between natural immunity and immunity from the vaccines, and we don't know how long natural immunity is going to last, right? And natural immunity might be specific to what it is you were infected with. So we're really not in a good place. And that begs the question now, what of a second wave? What of a second wave? And we have seen second waves and third waves devastate
There's
countries.
no
Yeah,
country that has escaped that second wave. Everybody
that's it
has the second wave. We've just experienced. We were lucky from the onset to
from the
hold it
onset.
out until now. So what we're experiencing now is what others have experienced one, two, three, four times already. So what I've
So why are you
noticed,
not flying out there and getting the vaccines? The vaccines are safe. The vaccines are safe. I mean, I don't know what to tell people. You know, you've had conversations. There are some people who just naturally hesitant, and there are others who say, "Well, I ain't taking that at all. It's
as
killing
a matter
people.
of
It is
fact,
that and that."
this morning on another program, I heard a man say he would rather die than take the vaccine, and I was like,
Imagine that.
wow, how do you speak to people like that? What do you say to someone who is in his conviction he rather die than take a vaccine?
But the question is, where is he getting his information from? Who is informing him? Who is he speaking with? Who is he having a dialogue with to be able to, how has he formed that opinion? You know? So
So how do
I,
we get
I,
to
I
people like that? How do we get to people who are of that? Because there are others like him
yes,
who
you
are
have to have
and there's some who
we
just
the same thing I keep saying the same thing we did when we were talking about constitutional change, going into the villages, sitting down with people, having the meetings. We need to do that on even a smaller scale, on a granular scale. Go into the villages. Have most villages have their little village groups and so on. Sit with the people, hear from them, because a lot of people are scared, right? There's a lot that they don't know. And it is best if they see people like us, doctors who look like the doctors, our local doctors who we interact with.
Mhm.
Come from our community, they speak the same language, they understand us, we understand them. Sit down, have that conversation, let people express their fears. It might be just a fear of a needle, it could be that. A lot of people afraid Zugu, as we say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or it could be that they're working with wrong information, right? They don't really understand what is taking place.
And there are a
And
lot of
you
terminologies that they don't understand. Like you said, go down to the level so they can understand. Because there's a lot of words used when you're talking about the science and the this and the that. That a lot of folks,
yeah,
elderly folks who are not that, schooled, etc.,
right,
they really don't understand.
you
So you know what they
understand.
say about ignorance, right? So
Yes, yes, and so that's we really need to have to breach that. So when you speak about things like comorbidities, what does that mean? It means you have an underlying health condition. That means that you're probably hypertensive, or you're probably asthmatic, or you probably have a heart condition, or you're diabetic or whatever. It means that you have something underlying. That's what we mean by comorbidity. And people need to understand that. And when you have those, it might put you at risk of getting more sick with COVID than, for most people, COVID is a mild disease. But 16.5% of people who get COVID get really sick. And 6% of them, without fail, end up in hospital, right? And we have seen, 260 something odd people in hospital, Aruna, right?
mhm.
And 2% die. 2% die, 6% in hospital. We need to extrapolate those figures so that people understand what it is we're talking about, right? And nobody wants to have to deal with a situation of 180 something of our citizens dead. I am sure there's nobody in Grenada at this point in time, the 100,000 of us, who does not know or has not been impacted by any one of those deaths. And
Now
that's
you've been
only
out
180.
now you've been out in the communities for the past couple of weeks,
Yes.
volunteering, with the COVID with vaccination, and of
Yes.
course, what have you. What
Yes.
are your thoughts on, folks that you've come into contact with? What are they saying? What are their greatest or their biggest fears?
They I don't think that some of them understand the urgency of becoming vaccinated. You know, this wave has passed, right? You remember 3, 4 weeks ago when everybody was in a tailspin and look at what is happening and so on, and the numbers going up, 7 dead, 6 dead, whatever. So now it has slowed down. And you know what people say? Well, I still make up my mind. I ain't sure.
What I've
No,
heard with numbers slowing down is that tourism's tourist season is opening, so the numbers they're playing with the numbers. That's
but
why that's why it's going down so quickly.
you would think, but I mean, it's crazy. That's not true, right? So in every single infection that we have seen in all the countries that everybody has been monitoring, you see that there is a rise and then there's a fall, first wave. And then the second wave comes and it more than overtakes the first wave, probably double the first wave. So if we really put in those numbers together, Aruna, we talking about another 45, 48,000 people who are unvaccinated or have no natural or no natural immunity at all, right? Who may be susceptible to the second wave, And we have an opportunity now. There are vaccines for every single person who is eligible to get a vaccine available in Grenada. And yet we are allowing vaccines to expire on our hands. Imagine that. What more do we want? I sit there and I'm trying to figure it out. And so I'm more than convinced now that we really need to go into the village and sit down with people and have a one-on-one. Because if it is ignorance, then we must dispel it. If it is misinformation, then we must deal with it head on. If it is, hesitancy because people are afraid of needles, probably do what you need to do. Show them the little needle. Let me tell you something. I didn't even feel that injection. Yeah, I mean, it's a small little needle, and in no time, in 2 seconds, it's all over, right? So I think we really have to reach the people where they are. Don't just go in and set up a tent and say, come and be vaccinated or come and get tested. Come, let's talk. Come, let's talk, right?
Roger Duncan is saying that booths are needed in every nook and cranny to help inform our people. The silent
Yes,
community leaders need to show themselves now. We are in an emergency. But there are
yes.
some folks who don't think this is an emergency because what I've noticed, well, I was out on the island for a couple of weeks, but I noticed that soon as the numbers started going down, people are all out again, walking with no mask. I've seen a whole bunch of folks by a shop yesterday, chilling, no mask on, and everybody having a good time. And it's like, you go in panic mode when you see the numbers going up, and as soon as you see it starts going down a bit, everybody just chills and relaxes and like, oh, I told y'all there was nothing to worry about, we got this.
But
Like,
that is exactly what we saw happen in the United States of America. You remember Miami and all of them and spring break and all of that, because there's the first wave and we got over that and then they eased up restrictions and what happened? Boom, the second wave, and I mean that probably killed more people than the first wave. So we have an opportunity, having seen what has happened in other countries, to come out. People are talking about, but some people are still dying in highly vaccinated, areas of the world and so on, right? The point is, the fact that they are vaccinated means that, the vaccines are not going to stop you from getting the disease. And the other thing, it may not, right? And if you have serious underlying issues that the disease will amplify, that is probably what gets you in the end, right? So the point is, you have to give yourself the best chance possible. So apart from being vaccinated, you also, that's why they say continue wearing a mask, continue social distancing, if you know that you have a serious underlying condition that could put you at serious risk, vaccinated or not vaccinated, you need to take personal responsibility and do the things that are necessary to keep yourself safe. Yeah. So you could imagine in those same countries that they're saying, oh, well, we're seeing an uptick. The people who are getting ill, all vaccinated, if they weren't, it would have been much worse. It would have been much higher. And that's what people are not saying. They're not saying that. So you look on at that and you're not analyzing the statistics properly. And we have come away with all kinds of wrong analyses and so, and really surface level, and we're not going down, you're not any deep dive into what might be taking place here. So
So
I mean,
some of you are saying, what is the difference in being by a shop with no mask and sitting down in umbrellas with no mask? Aren't we supposed to learn how to live with the virus? So isn't socialization part of living? I think there's a big difference, because if you're sitting at umbrellas, you're at a table with so and so. Plus, you have to do your temperature check. Plus, you have to sign in your name and all those things. But anybody that just comes chilled by a shop and we're all in each other's faces talking, I don't think that's what we're doing at umbrellas. You're not just up in anybody's face talking and what have you. When you get up, you're supposed to put on your mask. Only when you're sitting at your table, you remove it, and that is what I know for most of the restaurants. Plus, now it's only open for vaccinated folks, so there's a big difference. Anybody can just go to the shops.
Aruna, people have to take personal responsibility. Whether you're at umbrellas or whether you are at the corner shop or in a bus or wherever you are, you know that we're supposed to apply the protocols. You may not be able to social distance in a bus, but you certainly can wear a proper mask and wear it properly. You can wear a face shield. You can sanitize properly. And when you get home, you will shed your clothes at the door and so on, and do what is necessary to keep yourself safe, right? People have to take, we keep looking at other people. Why are you looking at other people? This is not a time for you to be looking at other people. If you believe that other people may be infected, and that's how I believe we should be looking at each other, because
I look at
I will know
each person as if you have the virus.
that's it. Treat everybody as though they have the virus. So I will take responsibility for me, and you will take responsibility for you. And if you don't want to do that, then what I take, what I do to protect me should be, it's my responsibility. So and that is not saying that we have to shun people or not to love them up or this, that, and get into a vaccine and unvaccinated. The point is, yes, we're gonna have to live with the virus. Yes, as many of us that should be, that can be vaccinated should be vaccinated, but that may not happen in the soonest possible time. So what do? Protect yourself. Protect yourself. That's it. Half of the people that you meet every day are unvaccinated or have no natural immunity to COVID-19.
And the thing
Just
about
as
it
you,
is, it's not just about you, because remember the way we live, a lot of folks live with either their parents or their grandparents, or there's an elderly person in the home. So you're out there throwing caution to the wind, you're doing whatever, and then you come home to poor granny or grandpa or your dad or your elderly mom, who doesn't go anywhere, doesn't do anything, and just home doing the little knitting, and and then you hear my mom has COVID. But mom wasn't
yes,
anywhere. Mom didn't go anywhere, but here she is with COVID, and then she's
yes,
hospitalized, and then you hear mom dies. How do you feel
yes.
knowing that you are out there being careless, and here you are, your mom dies
You
as a
know,
result? How do you
you
feel?
know, you know, I mean, Aruna, the other thing is that the virus is microscopic. You can't see it, right? You can't see it. And sometimes some people do the best that they can to protect themselves. But you have one moment where you weren't as careful as you had to be, and that's all the virus needs. That's all the time or the space the virus needs to infect you. Imagine that. So, I mean, you're home with elderly people, do the right thing, right? Do the right thing. I do not understand 6 billion people out of the 8 billion people who are alive today have received vaccines. If these vaccines were so lethal, then one would think that a huge number, 6 billion is not two people, a huge number of people would have died from the vaccines. Are we hearing that? No.
I'm hearing that they're covering up the deaths from vaccination. They're covering up those deaths.
Look, you know, you can't argue. You can't argue with the figures. At the end of the day, you can't argue with the figures, right? So it's either you believe them or you don't believe. If you don't want to believe them, I cannot help you because I don't know how to have that kind of conversation if you're not paying attention to facts. I don't know how to have that conversation with you, you know? So we have to appeal to those. I really think it's that kind of conversation where you sit down one-on-one with the villagers and let them throw everything, including the kitchen sink at you. The medical professionals are not to get angry, but they have to understand. And you know, we need some of the psychologists too. If you're doing that, psychologists in there working with the medical professionals and so on, so that they will be able to navigate the hesitancy and the anti-vaxxers and the misinformation spreaders and so on, so that you could have that kind of real conversation. And I believe if we do that, Aruna, of course, they're going to be the outliers, the people who just don't want to hear anything you have to say. You know, this is about big pharma, one world, whatever it is that they say, and
changing your
and
DNA, changing your DNA, and
yes, and it's right. You know, I mean, really, 6 billion people, 6 billion people have this vaccine. Now, let me ask you something. If you're in business, and even you doing your program there, you will earn more if you have more people, right? Coming on, then you could charge a little bit more for advertisements and this, that, and the other, and you do okay. You're an influencer. So how does it help you with dead people? How does it help you when your client die? I mean, it just defies logic, right? It defies logic. And nobody who is in business now and wants to maintain their position or their wealth or whatever the case might be, wants dead clients.
What is something that I see a lot of, and I'm seeing it again on the live, someone is saying, and I've tried in so many ways to explain it. I'm a point now where I'm like, you know what? Do whatever you want, because I'm beginning, it's like a headache every day trying to explain to someone who constantly says, like this person is saying, you can get vax, you can still give it to someone. And I don't know how else to explain that the vaccine does not prevent you from getting COVID or spreading COVID. It just minimizes the effects.
That's the point. And you know, Aruna, I want to let's look at that a little bit. Let's look at that. Now, remember when the alpha, that is the first you could say iteration of this virus came out. The one that started in China and was spread into the world. Now, you know, since then we have had variations. We have had, you know, it has morphed into different things. So you had beta, and now you have mu, and you have lambda, and you have delta. Right. Good, because the virus has mutated. Do you know that the delta variant, this delta, is 1,260 times more virulent? In other words, if the alpha infected you, within an hour, it might probably replicate and you will get 10. I'm just using an hour as a time period. It can make 10 more of itself in an hour. This delta in that same hour will make 1,260 of itself. 1,200, well, that would be 12, yes, we can multiply by, because if it's 10, then you multiply by 12, so that would be 12,600 of itself. Now, your body is supposed to send out antibodies to deal with that. We got the vaccines, because the vaccines, all the vaccines do is to tell your body, here now, you see this fellow that coming in here, he's unwelcome, deal with him when you see him. So when you have that mutation that becomes 1,260 times more virulent than the first one, how fast you think your body could pump out antibodies to be able to deal with that threat
Have to be
when it's
Superman.
exponential? And that is
Superman
probably
superpowers.
why people are starting to get, breakthrough infections, because the infection rate is so much higher, right? Your body has to do so much work. So you might have some breakthrough infections. And so you become, for a short time, you may even become contagious, right? For a short time. But if you're vaccinated, that period is like, 3 days or whatever the case might be, but it's much shorter period of time than when you're unvaccinated. People need to understand that. They need to understand these things.
But
When you
it's
have
not,
measles and so, it
it's
does
not
not mean that you don't get
understanding that.
measles.
But the thing is, Rhonda, it's not just understanding that, because I've spoken to several people who got the virus, and someone said to me the effects after is much worse than the
Worse.
actual virus itself, like the after effects. Like after they've been cleared, even if they've been cleared after the 14 days, and that person is saying to me they're still experiencing pain.
Yes.
They can hardly lift their leg. There are some days
What?
they're in excruciating pain and they're testing negative, but they're still in pain. So it's not just the virus itself you have to deal with for that 14-day period you're given. For people who had chikungunya, thank God I never had it. I heard people complaining after days, weeks, months after they were still in pain. And it's like
I got
still.
it. The chikungunya lasted, what, 3 days on me? Um, 3 days. But the science says that it could probably affect you for up to 7 years afterwards, especially, people's joints and so on are really badly affected. What you're discovering with COVID now is that the long haulers, those are the people that you're talking about there, the long haulers, the people who have this thing long beyond 14 days and 21 days and so on. And they just seem never to be able, their body just does not seem to be right anymore, and they have all kinds of complaints. The doctors are discovering that, look, better you don't get COVID anytime in your life, because we're not even sure what it is going to do to you. Yes, it seems like this virus is able to cross the blood-brain barrier like nothing else has been able to do that, right? So it is affecting, when they thought that it was just in your throat and just affecting your lungs, now they realize it's affecting your heart, it's affecting your liver, it's affecting your kidneys. Every organ in your body is susceptible to the ravages of COVID-19. Let me tell you something. I think in a year, when more research comes out and we're able to get to really, get a picture of what this virus does, people will be in shock.
I've even
And
seen
so,
some reports of memory loss as well.
yes, and well, you saw some. There was a big joke about Nicki Minaj and erectile dysfunction and the testicular issues and so on. And so I was just reading an article just about 2 or 3 days ago that speaks directly to that. That there are some people who experience that, right? Erectile dysfunction and testicular swelling and stuff like that. So they're still discovering stuff about COVID-19. And we have all the vaccines here, and we playing the fool. I'm sorry to say it that way, but
No, go ahead. I was saying just a final question.
We need to fix this thing fast. I think we have a little window now that we are seeing a slowing in infections and so on, but I think it's just a precursor to the next wave. And so if we have to ramp up everything that we need to do in this little period that we have, to go into the communities, talk to people, and try to see as many people, get as many people vaccinated as possible. All the naysayers and so on, sit down with them. If they're making sense and you can't convince, well, fine. But you can't say that you did not try. And we have to get inside it, because, Aruna, what we're looking at is not pretty. What we're looking at is not pretty. I don't want to be a doomsday speaker or anything like that. If you know me, I'm an optimist. You know, I always see the light at the end of the tunnel. I always try to see the glass, you know, half full as against the half empty. And I'm hopeful that if we do the right thing, we can, you know, avoid well, not necessarily avoid, but we can mitigate a second wave if we do the right thing. You know, but we really need to get on the ground and to do that. No, it's urgent.
Someone
And
here is
so,
saying
you know,
Canada just coming out of the fourth wave. Let us pray Grenada don't have to go through a second wave and third wave. Another person is saying, whole month after I'm still coughing and extremely tired. A month after
yeah,
getting COVID.
look,
So my last question, Randal, your thoughts on mandatory vaccination and of course the advantages to being vaccinated. What we're seeing now, you're hearing places where only vaccinated people can, you know, access whatever, versus people who are not vaccinated. What are your thoughts on those before we go?
I'm in really in a kind of quandary about that. I would say this because, you know, naturally I'm against discrimination in any form, right? Against anybody and in any form. But I don't want to say but just like that. However, we have a public health emergency. We have lost 130 of our elderly people, right? Because their caregivers were not sufficiently protected against the virus, and so may have been responsible for giving it to the elderly people whose bodies weren't able to deal with it. Yeah, and that's just the beginning. I mean, we're seeing what is coming. So in critical things like that, even though we're talking 2% will die and 98% will recover, to the person who has died or the family of the person who has died, that person is not a statistic. It's not 2%. It's 100% for them, you know? And as much as we need to do, we live in a community and all of us interact in that community. We have to do what is necessary to protect not just ourselves, but the people in the community. And in areas of vulnerability, like in hospitals where you find a lot of sick people, one would think that the only thing that you have in your arsenal to kind of mitigate, you know, or to help keep people safe is the vaccine. Why is it that, you know, a place like the hospital should not, the people who are dealing with sick people shouldn't be vaccinated? Because if you make a mistake inside there and you're not vaccinated and so on, you might spread it among sick people. There are people inside there who are unable to get vaccines because of the state of their health. And so, you know, in circumstances like that, I think we need to make sure that the people who are there and dealing with the sick are vaccinated. Do I need to mandate it? Probably not. What I can say is that the people who will work in this environment ought to be vaccinated. And if you are a healthcare professional and don't want to be vaccinated, you could work in a less, what is the word? A less risky area, if that's what it is, you know. You don't want to get it for whatever reason, as the case might be, then don't come and work in a hospital. I will find work for you because there's work for you to do. You could go in the community and do this. You could dress a soft foot, whatever the case might be. We could do that. But if you're going to be interacting with people who are vulnerable, especially vulnerable to this disease and so on, I would like to think that the people around them, use the people, make sure that the people around them are properly vaccinated, or, you know, so that they don't pass it on. That's the way I see it. So I don't think we need to get into the divide of vaccinated or get into a quarrel about vaccinated and unvaccinated. There's a lot of work we need to do still. We need to go and sit down with people and let them say what their fears are, and let's give them the information. And so You might find that at the end of the day, 90% of Grenadians will decide that they're going to get the vaccine. But we have to do the work
You have to do
because
the
it
work.
may be misinformation and so on that might be driving vaccine hesitancy at this point in time. You know? So let's do that first before we're talking about. But in the meantime, for the most vulnerable among us, I'm not saying, I'm saying manage the resources that you have. So if you have 90% nurses or doctors or whoever vaccinated, the 10% who don't want to be vaccinated, put them in another area of work and use the ones there to minimize any kind of spread among the people. What you're doing about socialization, and so if restaurants decide that they only want vaccinated people sitting at their tables and so on because they want to minimize risk, that is their right to do. But they're not stopping selling anybody who's unvaccinated. If they want to come and get something, you probably take it away. Like all of us had to take away stuff when there was no talk of vaccine or unvaccinated. You wanted to get something, you go there, you have to take it away and go, right? So we don't need to get into any kind of fight. And we have work to do. So let's do the work. Let's try to eliminate the hesitancy as much as possible by educating people.
Gotcha. Alrighty, well, we gotta go. So thank you so much for accommodating me this morning and for being in the room. And I hope that the next time we meet, we'll talk about the numbers increasing and more folks turning out to get vaccinated and stuff like
That
that.
would be
So
brilliant. That would be
look,
brilliant, Aruna. And I want to say thank you very much for inviting me this morning. Thank you to all of you who continue to give me words of encouragement and so on. But I believe, Aruna, all of us have a responsibility to get involved in this fight now to win this war against COVID. All of
to,
us. So
to
people, they come into your area and so on, and they always need help. They always need another hand. If you are able, go and volunteer. You know what I mean? Go and volunteer. Go and help. Sitting down and just typing and talking and doing nonsense or pelting stones or whatever the case might be is not helping the situation. What we need to do is to get involved so that, getting involved, you get information. You begin to understand the landscape, and so you make better decisions, going forward. So thanks again to everybody, and I wish you all a blessed day. Enjoy the rest of the week.
Thank you so much, Randall, and stay safe
You're
as
welcome.
always. Alrighty. And that concludes our ladies' room this morning. We'll be back tomorrow morning with another one. So thank you so very much to everyone who were part of the audience. Have to go back and read some of the comments. You guys were busy this morning. Our ladies' room came to you through the kind compliments of Escomar Variety Store, Beacon Insurance, and Western Union. Catch you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.
Comes to you compliments of Beacon Insurance. Insurance is